Right, that's leaking. Nice puddle of oil on the ground. You can't see it maybe with the wet, but there's a nice puddle of oil underneath that every single time I come out. So we're gonna have to fix that in a little while. Out of the way, Dopey! Billy likes to stand in front of the tractor. I don't know why. It doesn't like me going to the farm. I don't know why, what's wrong with her, but she likes to stand in front of me. She can be weird. Back. But anyway, welcome back. New day, new jobs. First job I'm going to do now is over to our other farm to bring over 2 bales. If you follow our channel back, say in the last 6 or 7 months, you would have seen that we had an issue way back at the very beginning when we put our heifers outside. That's our heifers that would be going in calf this year with angleberries. And unfortunately, we had to sell 2 of our nicest heifers. That's just the way it is. It's always the good ones. They could never be picked, fortunately. They were just too bad, and we didn't get near enough what the value of it would have been worth because of that fault. So it was really, really disappointing. But unfortunately, that wasn't the end. 2 more of our heifers did not go in calf this year. It's part of the problem we've had with our cows as well. But look, they're not in calf, so hence the reason. We have a guy coming this evening to look at them, and he reckons that he's going to do a bit of investigating into them and going to do his best to see can he get them into calf. Never had that issue before, and it's disappointing. Disappointing is a small word for it. What can you do? It's part of the job. Right, well, here's the ladies coming to meet me. When they're coming to meet you, you know the grass is getting a kind of scarce. Like it is and it isn't. There's still loads of grass here. You can see it behind me. There's plenty to eat. They're just getting a bit fussy, but they get to the time of year now, no matter how much grass there is, they want to get in. They know the silage, they can smell it. They can see me bringing the bales home there on the Massey, and they're not stupid. They want to get in, and that's as simple as that. So I know to look at a lot of them. They're starting to make nice little bags now, nice little elders as well. They're starting to spring a little bit. Most of them are coming early in January, and only a few then in February. But then you come along to like 870 here, and that's where the problems begin. 870 is one of our heifers that's not in calf. 870 is a lovely looking heifer. We're not going to keep her on to next year because we have enough of calves over there, replacements for next year. So that's it. 870 is one of them that's going to be going. I'm just going to quick look around. I don't have to go too far before I find the next one, which is 879, a smaller animal because he's 870, 879, so she's obviously younger. There's 2 months actually in the difference of the 2 of them. You can see it on them. But 879 is also a well-marked heifer. And unfortunately, she's going to be going for the road as well. So yeah, what we get paid for them won't be near as much if they were in calf. I mean, it's disappointing. It's just really, things like that are the type of things that really bother me. Over machinery or over anything else, having heifers like that, not in calf, or having to sell the other 2 with angleberries. I never forgot that all summer. It always kind of played in my mind. That's farming. A lot of people mentioned they were having the same problems, and not only on YouTube but locally as well. So it seems to be a broad spectrum thing that's going on this year. So maybe it is down to the weather. You will always get animals with little bits of problems and not going in calf. You will always get that. There's no point in thinking there's no such thing as the perfect herd. Just this seems a little bit sudden this year, so maybe it is just down to the weather. I hope that's all it is, because it's a big problem. Right, last them bales gotten home. One thing I do have to do is I have to clean this pass because my mother's given out to me already. I've been bringing up the muck on the wheels, and you can see the way it's sticking to the concrete and down by the house. Yeah, it's just from the cows, the clay that was on their feet coming out of this hill, especially coming down here, and with the light little stones that we put on, the little covering of stones we put on here, it's just become a kind of a bit of an old paste more than anything. If you look at it here, it's not very deep, but it's just sticky old stuff. I will clean it. I clean it every year, and I will clean it again, but I'll wait till it rains properly, because at the minute it's kind of semi-dry and it'd be a nightmare to try to clean it. You wouldn't even get it clean properly. So I'll wait till it rains and gets really wet, and when it gets really wet I'll take the yard scraper out with the hand yard scraper and the brush, and we'll take into it and clean it all up and put an end to her giving out. It's very dark today, absolutely gloomy dark, and she just farted right on the camera. Our bales have been absolutely fantastic, but all of a sudden we just got run really dirty bale. And it's in here in front of the cows, and I've just left it here for a wee while with them to try and get them decent, but I don't know if the camera picks it up. It's just a mess of a bale. I don't know what done it. Just in the middle of all the real good stuff, take it outside, look at the colour of it. It's just full of clay. Absolutely matted in clay. I don't know what does that, because the rest of the bales was absolutely lovely. Now I have a big shed of stuff to have to take out. One of the best ways of testing your silage is just look at your cows. Let's just pick the first cow we get to, 87. Have a look at 87. Can you see that with the dark light? Cows are doing really well. They're in powerful condition. A real shine of them and everything. So the silage is good. Now the red on 87's back, she was dried this morning, so we're already starting to dry our cows now. We have 3 dried so far. We'll probably dry another 6 or 7 before the end of the week. So we're in that drying off period now. I don't, of course, dry my cows off completely. I would absolutely love if our cows were calving in January and February and March all together. That way, yeah, in December I'd dry them all off and just take a few weeks off over Christmas with them all completely dried. I'd love to do that, but sadly, with our calving period the way it is at the moment, it doesn't look like it's something we're going to be able to do for a while yet. But we're aiming towards it. We're definitely aiming towards it. Now, before I start the case, you remember the crack me and Jerry 6420 were having about tractor starting? The case, for a while, wasn't the easiest to start. I will put my hands up. I know Jerry says it's a John Deere start great, especially when they've been heated before he tries them out. But, shh, this tractor was a little bit hard to start, alright? Nothing significant, but it had its times. And I actually fixed it on a video in front of you guys. All it was this. This used to spring back up when I'd push it down, so I'd push it down and it'd come up about that much. Now it doesn't do that, with a brand new cable in it. And what that was doing was, it basically, this here wasn't come back fully, like it is now. And that was leaving the tractor that basically the stopper was half pulled out. Now some people would say, well, sometimes that makes the tractor kind of like a half choke start easier. Well, not on these, doesn't work on these. It actually left the tractor that it wasn't getting enough fuel and it wasn't starting. And that was the problem fixed. Now, cold start. Here we go. We had a couple of nights of frost back a few weeks ago and done the very same, started straight away. So, such an easy fix. It's just a matter of finding what was causing it. So basically it was a cheap and easy fix. Now they are words you never hear any John Deere owner saying. So that's them fed. All happy now. As I said before, don't know why the other one was bad. This stuff is really good. No clay whatsoever in any of the rest of them. One thing I will say is the bales from the Fusion seem to be always generally very good. I've noticed that. Fusion balers seem to make a really nice bale. It's always been a kind of a McHale bale that my contractor would have used. Them Fusions, they make a good bale. Right, let's get on to the next job. And the next job is come back to what we mentioned at the beginning of this video, and that is this power top link. Now, you can see it's a pretty big one. It's an expensive bugger. It definitely was. I forget how much it cost me, but it kind of raised an eyebrow when I heard about it first. I wanted something heavy enough to carry the 2 bales in the back and not fail, especially when you go over bounces and things. So it was the one that was recommended to me to do that. But unfortunately, on my 3rd or 4th time using it, I damaged it, and damaged it quite badly. How I did it was quite simple. Do you see this lovely column here with all your levels of different holes that you can put this into? Well, on the 6470 this actually was much heavier, built completely different, much thicker here as well. I will admit, when I seen this one, I thought it looked very light and flimsy looking, but then I can kind of understand the way it was redeveloped. And what happened was, this guy here, we'll see it better now when I take it off. It is damaged beyond full repair, but I can make it work still. It was on the 2nd or maybe even the 3rd hole, and I lifted this up and you can see a big gouge here. When I lifted it up, it hit here on the other tractor. There wasn't enough clearance. It would have worked if I had kept it on the top hole, Yes, but I didn't realise that at the time, and there wasn't enough clearance between the two here, and lifted it up, it hit here, and it bent. It actually has bent this whole shaft that's welded solid. I'll show you it now when we have it out. I simply turned it around and put the cylinder up to the upper side. That way there was definitely enough of clearance most of the time, and that wasn't going to happen. Another way I was able to fix it also, if I wanted to keep it the way it was, put on the top hole, also fixed the problem. Look at the damage was done, there's nothing I can do about it, and it didn't happen once, it happened to two. And I have another one down there in worse condition, a much lighter one, that I will have to fix too. But for now, this one is leaking quite badly, and I'm not going to buy a new one of these. I'm going to take it down, I'm going to put a little bit of weld around here, I'm going to put something on this pipe, check it out, see what it's like, see where the leak is coming from, and hopefully we'll be fit to fix it. Okay, that's not good either. That there needs a new head. Oh, the seal's gone. Oh, the seal's gone in here as well. That's why it's spat out like that. Right, I'll have to fix that as well. Now this is a heavy brute of a thing. Come on, you can get. There you go. Oh, Jesus. She's a heavy mama. Now, the seat is blown out. See the way it's pushing through there? You can get a little screwdriver, jam it in there, and push it back in again. More than likely it will work, but I guarantee you it will pop out again. So I should have one of these. Over here to my wall of fame. What's wrong with you? You looking for something? Now, I always keep bits and pieces, and that looks exactly what I want. I probably have a few of them here. Yeah, there's another one. Always keep bits and pieces to come off old pipes and things that bust. You'll always find use for them. They're always handy to have. On second thoughts, it's full of dirt, and I don't want that running through the tractor, so I'm going to blow it out with an air line. Done. Now if you look at this here is all tilted up that way. It should be straight coming out. It got an awful bend there. There was an awful pressure on that. You can see the place where it took the wrap there, and the same on the other side. That's the two pieces that would have been on both sides where this goes into where the two holes are. So you see the way it is. You also see the ball here, the way it's twisted. Look at the housing of that. That's a bigger worry. That I can't really fix, and that leaves the ball that is pretty much solid. So I might actually take this up someday to Carl's Engineering, and I'll get this piece here and get them to re-weld that around and make a good job of that. Just fix it back, because it doesn't happen now in the new tractor, and it wouldn't have happened with the other tractor if I had seen it before this happened. It was a fault that Kenna was shouting out. I didn't cop it until the damage was done. I actually didn't even see the damage being done. I noticed the leak first, and then I seen where it was hitting. But anyway, no point in whinging about it now. I'm going to try our best to get the oil stop leaking for a start, and then we can address this here maybe down the line. But it's still working, and it's still working perfect. The main end, which is here, isn't damaged. This can always be cut and redone. Not a problem, not a big job. So thankfully, if it had been bent here, it would have been a goner. This brake cleaner is such a handy bit of stuff to have around the house. Cans of it are as cheap as chips, and it's great for removing oil. Cleans everything spotless, especially when you're going to weld. Last thing you need is oil anymore. Right, we're all clean now. Really clean. Brilliant stuff. So this guy here got bent back slightly with the impact here, and I think there's a leak just there, and I'm going to put a bit of weld across that. It doesn't always work when it comes to oil, but I'm going to try, and I'm going to put a bead of weld right around this nut, just right here as well. Then I'm going to put another bit of weld on these two here, try to build them up and then just grind them down just to tidy that up where it got two big mad wraps. I think we should be okay at that. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do with you is put you outside because I know you're going to stand staring at the weld. I have to turn off the light now because it interferes with the welding mask. Alright, so that's it all welded up. I don't think I've done a real bad job on that. Now my welds wasn't that powerful. I'm still getting used to my MIG welder here, which is an absolute godsend because I've been using it quite often here for doing little things like this. It's great for filling up. That's all filled up there now and looks much better. This crack is completely filled. This bolt here is welded, but it's not welded in a way you won't be fit to get it off. Just run the grinder around here if you ever need to take it off and just screw it off. Fingers crossed, that's it. That's the end of the leaks there. So we'll fit it now and see what happens. Right, so it's 2 days later. And the reason it's 2 days later is because it didn't work. It's as simple as that. It was actually worse. It was actually leaking much worse. I quickly found out there's a reason why people tell you it's so hard to weld whether it has been oil or hydraulic fuel. And the reason for that is when you go to weld whether it's a pipe or whether it's hydraulic oil, the first thing the oil does is it boils. And no matter how much I cleaned this thing out and drained it out, you'd put a lovely bead of weld across here, next thing the oil, it move around underneath it and start bubbling out of a different place. Very frustrating. So I had it lovely and clean and looked great in front of the camera. When it started leaking like it did when I put it back on again, I took it straight back down again, left the camera off, and I just took into it with weld. So I went round and round it a few times, and that's it. It's leaking no more. I've drew home about 10 bales on it so far. 2 bales at a time, put a good bit of pressure on it and there's no leaks at all. It's nice and dry. Problem is fixed. Yes, it doesn't look as tidy as the first one, but guess what? Grinder and paint makes me the welder I ain't. I got a phone call yesterday. But first of all, I got a phone call and a text message from 2 neighbours that had the same problem, and they had been contacted by this vet and said that I was next in line. Right enough, my phone rung within a half an hour and I got the same message. So back about 4 weeks ago, we were contacted by a vet in the department, even less than that. And we were told that a neighbour had bought an animal in France, bought a few animals in France or whatever it was, and when one of them was took onto his farm, it tested positive for blue tongue. Now blue tongue, if some of you don't know what it is, I really don't know much about it myself, but it's transmitted by a fly. A fly lights on one animal's back, goes to the other. So you could have a pen full of cattle, it won't transmit from one to the other. It needs the fly to carry it, alright? So these animals are all tested seemingly when they arrive on farms. I know very little about it when they're imported in from countries like France that are well known to have blue tongue, especially southern France seemingly. And long story short, one of them animals tested positive. That animal was put down immediately. It was only in the country a couple of days. Lucky enough it's winter time and there's not an awful lot of flies about. But the department reckon because it's mild, there's midges about, and there was a slight little possibility that there could be a transmission there. So they wanted us to blood test our cows. Now we were only after testing for TB and our cows was only after being up in the crush. They're done on 2 separate days, so you may say they were up twice and tested and all cleared. Now we're going to have to blood test again about a week and a half after. And cows don't forget. They know when they're going up in the crush shortly after a test. They don't like getting jabbed with needles and things, so they don't like particularly going up there. Now, another fact is they're very heavy in calf, and I don't particularly like putting them up into it because they're the weight of the crush now, and something can happen to them. We've often seen cattle throwing the calf from them on slats after a TB test, and I always dread it that it might knock a calf out of a cow. Anyway, we did that test. The test to 2 samples of blood from each animal, and the 2 samples, one was to see had it got the virus, and the other was to see had it taken in the virus or had it got it in its body that it might develop into the virus. Whatever way it is they do it, that's what I was told. All was clear. All the farmers around me, I think there was 7 or 8 of them that were tested, they were all clear, they were all tested in the 1 week. So that came back to us as good news, but that wasn't the end of it. He did say to us, there's a chance, a very small chance, we may need to do this again. Probably about 3 weeks or so. But it's only a small chance. Now they want to come back and do it all again. It's absolute ludicrousy. That's what it is, at the highest degree. I had it out with him because I was annoyed, and I said, you realise what you're doing to our cattle, what you're doing to us? You're putting us under pressure for no reason, because there's no blue tongue. They've already tested clear. The animal was only in the country for a couple of days. There's no flies this winter time. The risk is so low, it just does not make sense to put us through it again. It's a lot of the stupidity that goes on in farming, unfortunately. I said on Instagram, farming isn't a stressful job. It's nothing about farming, in my opinion, is that terribly stressful. It's very enjoyable. Problem is just getting left alone to do your work. That's where it all lies. It's all these people who make up all these rules and regulations. Some of them make sense, but a lot of them don't. And all it's doing is putting more and more pressure on a farm. And they talk about farm accidents, and all of it's down to improper use of machinery or improper way of doing jobs. I don't know, in my opinion, a lot of farm accidents can happen when your mind is elsewhere. When you're stressed out, maybe you're in a rush. When I test these cattle that morning, I have to try and catch up on my walk that evening. It annoyed me when he rang me. Yesterday evening when I milked my cows, my mind was elsewhere. It really annoyed me. And I think that added stress on your shoulders and keeping your mind off the job is where a lot of these accidents happen. But they don't see it like that. It's never seen like that, because guys come out, they're getting well paid for it. We're not getting any money for it, and we're taking all the risk. We have to do whatever we're told. And that's what we're going to be doing next Friday. Now I'm away to the other farm. We're going to put our heifers in today, get them all sorted and in, because they're starting to tramp a wee bit now in the fields. I know it hasn't rained much, fields are wet, they've done enough of grazing. It's time to get them in. So we're going to have to do that today. We're also going to go and look at a tractor this evening, and we're going to look at another tractor tomorrow and test the water. We're not set in concrete yet, but something could happen anytime. We just don't know. So we'll keep you in touch, don't worry. We'll keep you in touch with what's happening. But until then, thanks for watching as always. If you haven't subbed, now's the time to do it. Give us a like, follow us on Instagram, Facebook and on TikTok. Our merch, which I'm not wearing, it's there on the link below, you can check that out. Until the next one, we'll talk to you again.